Hi, everybody. It's Kiva Schuler. I'm the CEO and founder here at the Jai Institute for Parenting, and I'm so excited to share this conversation today with one of our amazing graduates, Lisa Smith. Lisa is the founder, one of my favorite humans also.
Right back at you.
I know, we were like, how are we going to only talk for 15 minutes? This might be a miracle. Lisa's the founder of The Peaceful Parent. She has an amazing community. She's also just a leader in the community of Jai coaches, someone that, gosh, Lisa, so many people look up to you and hold you as a model of what's possible for Jai. I think also just recognize your passion for this work and your integrity and all the things that make you amazing. When did you get certified? I don't even remember.
That's a good question. Let's see. I was certified in September of 2014.
Okay, so it's been a while.
It has been, yes.
What was that initial inspiration for you, back 7 years ago to say, I want to invest my time and make such a financial investment in becoming a parenting coach?
What a great question. And it'll take me a couple minutes to unwind the story, but it's worth telling, I believe. I grew up in a house full of yellers. And, I jokingly say if yelling were an Olympic sport, I would come from a dynasty of gold medalists, right? And it's sadly true, seriously. And I remember when I was little, I swore if I ever had a child, I would not treat them the way I was treated. And my husband and I were married 14 years before we had our son. We knew we were only going to have one child. I wanted to be a mom, and I loved my kid. We all love our kids. That's never up for debate. But I started to repeat a lot of the patterns. And I was devastated, Kiva. I was absolutely devastated because nobody wanted to not yell at their kids more than me. And I was repeating the patterns. And I just knew there had to be a better way. And not ironically, but at the time, I was a venture capitalist. Right? Is there a profession more on the opposite side of the spectrum than parent coaching? Right? I was a venture capitalist. I had amazing relationships in my life. I led people without having to yell at them. And then I would come home at night, and by 5:30, I was angry and reactive with my 3-year-old. And I just wanted to find a different way. And I had read books, I had looked around, I had talked to people. And one day, like this was meant to be, a friend of mine who was a life coach was doing an interview with a woman named Kiva about parent coaching. And I was like, WTF, parent coaching, what's that? Wow. Sounds like I need to know more about that. And I jumped on the call to listen. You and Amy were doing an interview. Yeah. I'll never forget it. I was standing in my laundry room.
I remember this interview. Yes.
I was standing in Amy Pearson. I was standing in my laundry room upstairs in San Jose, California, folding towels. And I could not get to the Jai website fast enough. Like I threw the towels on the floor and ran to my, and what's interesting is originally I was only in to learn. Yeah. Right. That was my original.
Right. You're like, I just want these. I think, becoming a coach gives you mastery and a skill set. And so you're not alone in that. We hear that from other parents that are like, I just want these skills for my own children. And I get it. I mean, so much of your story I resonate with, as you know.
Yes. Yes. So I signed up, and within the first couple of weeks, we had a massive transformation in our family. Yeah. I mean, seriously, massive. And the answers that I had been looking for were there. The template was there to go inside myself and do the healing that I needed to do. And after a while, I just couldn't stop thinking about it, talking about it, dreaming about it. I've probably always been an entrepreneur at heart. My husband would say that. I've always thinking about what's next. What are we going to dip our toe in the water? I'm always
how do I make it better?
Inventions and franchises and, whatnot. And so one day I think I was talking to my husband yet again about what I had learned at the Jai. And I think he was just like, Okay, look.
It's like, I'm going to just hold up a mirror here for you, my love.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I made the decision to exit my firm
Yeah.
and
Wow.
step into parent coaching.
Amazing.
Initially as a hobby,
Yeah.
as a part-time job. We had moved in 2016 from California back to Arizona,
Yeah.
and my son was little and he was changing schools, and my husband was at a startup and had a really big job that involved a lot of travel.
Yeah.
So initially I wanted to just do this really super part-time.
Yeah. Just something on the side. Feel like
Exactly.
you're divesting of, your intellect and passion and purpose. We talk about this a lot here, that really we do see coaches coming in with kind of four distinct ideas about how to take the work and divest it in their lives and use it. And so one is, you've named a couple of them. The first, obviously, just to have for your own family. For many of our parent coach trainees, that's the game. That's what they're here for, and that's what they want. And just getting the skills and the tools for their own family is enough. And then many, exactly, who want the side gig, want to pick up their kids from school every day and be available in that way, and then make some nice extra money
Mhm.
on the side doing work that they love.
Yes. And that was me for a couple years, Kiva. I
Yeah.
got us settled. My little guy, I wanted to drop him off and pick him up. That was experience I never had as a kid. So I
Same.
wanted to experience that as a mom. I was heavily involved in my son's school's PTA. I did a lot of, so I wanted that flexible
Yep.
business with something that got me out of bed in the morning, made a little bit of money, gave me purpose. And then I decided, because I like to achieve things. I'm restless. I don't sit still well. Malcolm started to get a little bit older, a little more independent, and then I just put the throttle down
Yeah.
and went for it.
Yeah. I did the same thing when the kids were small, because I started my first business when I think they were like 3 and 5 years old. And so it, those first few years, it kind of just was this little thing.
Mhm.
And then the more freedom that I got, the more that, now they're just going to take the whole thing over. I'm convinced.
Well,
Someday.
and now I have a 16-year-old who drives,
Right. Exactly.
right? And so now I have, I can
Freedom. Yeah.
go 100 miles an hour, because
Yeah.
I'm still parenting, of course, but I got a lot of time back.
Yeah.
I have a son who plays a competitive sport. So until he became a driver, there were times when I was pretty limited, because we would spend a lot of time driving to coaching, training, and practices and workouts and tournaments on the weekends.
Yeah.
And now
What
he
I'm
can
really
do that
hearing is
himself.
that the business really grew with you over these last 7 years. And as your circumstances changed, you expanded to the next thing.
That's so well said. And I think that's, yes, 100% yes. And that's the beauty of this business,
Mhm.
is that it has a volume switch that you can
Yes.
turn up and down
Yep. Foot
as
on the
necessary.
gas, foot off, foot on the
There you go.
gas. I think, I I really, as you know, I'm such a fan of business ownership for women. I wouldn't even call it entrepreneurship, because to me, entrepreneurship is, making a big investment to something that has uncertainty, versus business ownership is this idea of being able to decide how to use your time, use your resources, use your energy, use your intellectual capacity, and use your creativity in a way that you own your life, in a way that you cannot if you work for somebody else. And that double promise of Jai, right? That yes, we give you these amazing tools to be a better parent yourself. And I've heard you say this, and I love it, that we actually give you a job that makes your parenting better, and your parenting makes you better at your job. And it's
I was just going to
amazing
say
to see
that.
all these women now. I mean, hundreds upon, and some awesome dads, hundreds upon hundreds of coaches all over the world living this out. It's like, oh,
It's so true. Um, yeah, when you're at work, when you're a parent coach and you're working with a client, or writing some content, or recording a podcast, or whatever you're doing, you're learning to be a better parent. And when you're parenting, you're creating material for your clients.
yep.
I had that happen just yesterday. My son had a little something happen at school, and we got an email about it. And then I got the email, and then I jumped on my membership community call, and I was able to kind of work through regulating myself in the conversations about kids and parents and parenting. And when I got off the call, I was a better parent.
Yeah.
And, that's just the nature of this business. If you do hair for a living while you're coloring someone's hair, which is very important work in the world, let's be honest.
Yes, it is.
As you're coloring someone's hair, it's not making you a better parent.
Right.
Right. And so this is, it's just the most amazing work we can do. I mean, if it's your calling, if you feel this.
If you have that love of,
Yeah.
I think many of us have that experience. I hear this all the time from our coaches of having some experience as a child where there's literally like the voice of God comes through. And it's like, when I am a mom or I am a dad, I am not going to continue these intergenerational patterns that are so painful. And then we find ourselves, because we're human, in that loop. And so that's that initial, I think I just hear that so commonly from our coaches. Becoming a great parenting coach, it's a different thing than having a parent coaching business. And there's a whole other new skill set required to start, getting clients. What advice would you give if someone's like, okay, I can see this getting a coach part, but going out and, talking about a business and taking money for something I love, that feels a little uncomfortable or scary. What advice would you give to somebody who might be having that understandable fear?
My advice might surprise you. Maybe not you, Kiva, but anyone listening to this. It's not that complicated.
It isn't.
It's really not. If this is your passion.
Yeah.
I have spent my entire career before becoming a parent coach in either sales or marketing or business development. Okay. And everything in the world is sales. Everybody's selling something. If you're a priest, you're selling religion. If you're a teacher, you're selling learning the content. If you're, doing hair, you're selling, let me color your hair and cut it.
If you're a mom, you're selling, put the dishes in the dishwasher.
Exactly, which I just texted my son a few minutes ago. Hey, before he is today off school. Hey, before you jump on gaming, please put the dishes away, right? Everybody's selling something in their profession or in their hobby or in their winemakers, restaurateurs, right? So when you realize that, then suddenly it's just about finding people that want to pick up what you're putting down.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to look, this is the thing I've learned, Kiva, and I learned this from you. It doesn't have to look any particular way. We are not a franchise.
Correct.
Right? You don't have to do it the Jai way. That's the beauty of this. You get to do it however you want. So if you want to be a parent coach who goes out into your community and works with pediatricians, you can do that. If you want to offer talks to the PTA, you can do that. If you want to rent a room at a coffee, the world is your oyster.
Yeah.
And you get to do, I remember I went through training with a mom who had reached out to her pediatrician and crafted this entire business out of just offering talks at pediatrician, because
right.
There's the perfect.
It's the perfect, I mean, there's so many places that you could root, schools, Montessori, Waldorf schools, public schools, Facebook groups that specialize in, that are specifically for step parents or neurodiverse children. I mean, really, what you're saying is so spot on. The sky is the limit, and any of our coaches get to decide to whom, how much, for how much,
right,
how often, all of that. I love what you said about it's not that hard. I talk to our coaches about this all the time. Making things complicated or overwhelming is a way that we hide from doing the very simple thing that is actually only scary the first time you do it. It's actually only scary to go give a workshop the first time. And then you're like, oh my gosh, that was so fun. Please, can I do that again?
So true. That is so true. I had the opportunity at the beginning of COVID to do a segment on ABC and virtually just like this.
Yep.
And, you know, I hadn't done TV before. And I wouldn't say, I mean, I wasn't super nervous, but I didn't know what to expect. And I had a few butterflies, which is never a bad thing. And it was so effortless that when I was done, I was like, yes, please, I'll have more of that. You know, it's like trying a new food for the first time, sushi, right? You've never had sushi before and you're going to go out for sushi and you put that first roll in your mouth and you're like, keep it coming, please. The other thing I wanted to say is, a confused mind does nothing, right? And so one of the principles that I subscribe to is just stay out of confusion. That's, if someone said to me, Lisa, what is your business principle that you live by? It's just so simple for me. Just stay out of confusion, because a confused mind does nothing.
Yep. You can just sit there for a really long time and not actually move anything forward. And really, I mean, to boil it down, if you're watching this, the simple way that you get clients as a parenting coach is you talk to people, and then when they're interested, you invite them to have a phone call and you share the work. It's not more complicated than that. It doesn't need to be. And in fact, trying to have it be more complicated, especially at the beginning, is a way that you'll kind of hamstring yourself, wouldn't you say, Lisa?
100%, yes. I mean, it's very similar to going to the gym, right? And you join a new gym and a personal trainer says, what are your fitness goals?
Yeah.
Right? And maybe it's to go to the gym 5 minutes a day, twice a week. You probably don't need a personal trainer. But maybe it's like, hey, I've never lifted weights before. I'd be interested in learning about what that can do for my body. And she says to you, oh, I can help with that. And you sign up for a package, right? It's that simple at the gym, and it's that simple in parent coaching. People want what you have, and you just have to step out onto the front porch, metaphorically, and they will come.
It's so true. So we talked about these first two phases, right? Becoming a parenting coach for your own edification, becoming a parenting coach as a side gig, maybe when your kids are small, or wanting something to do that's part-time that brings in, a couple $1,000s an extra a month to pay for vacations, or to pay for, in my case, I started so my kids could go to their little crunchy Montessori school. And then we have people that come in and really want a full practice, that are looking to fill, replace a full-time income, be a real financial contributor to the home. How was that switch for you, going from having it just be a side gig to having it be your full-time thing?
It's been awesomely full of growth, right? And that's really what I wanted to experience. I wanted to push this thing out into the world in a big way. I like doing big things. I like big trips and big gifts. And, I'm loud, and I like to live my life very loudly. So I decided as Malcolm got into junior high, and I had more time to give, I wanted to just see what I could do. Yeah. And so I turned up the volume, and that has been its own journey in terms of bringing new skills into my business, right? Because now I have a team of people, and we have processes, and I coach a lot of people, and I reach a lot of people on a daily basis. And that's been its own journey, exciting. I've grown a lot. I've learned a lot. I've made a few mistakes along the way, right? You can't grow without
As
mistakes.
one does when one is growing. It's like, fail faster is one of my favorite quotes.
Yes, I hear you say that. Yes. And I wanted to have that experience. That was intentional. Mm-hmm. I wanted to have that experience, and I've enjoyed every moment of it. And so it's, I think I would summarize it this way. I went from, I've said this before to some of our coaches, I went from being a parent coach, to being a parent coach part-time, to being a full-time parent coach to now running a business, a pretty big, substantial business that offers parent coaching.
Yeah.
And I love that evolution. I've welcomed every part of that. And I'm excited to see where it can go from here with the volume up really high.
Yeah.
But I also loved when I had 3 clients that I met with on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So
yeah, it's all just, it's like as you grow, new things start to become exciting, and old things kind of that were exciting last year become a little boring, but that's how you keep evolving and expanding. I love that so much. One more thing came up as you were talking. I think that some people think, why would someone like Lisa Smith come on the Jai Institute for Parenting's, and talk about becoming a parenting coach? People will ask sometimes, like, what about competition or other people in my community who are already doing this? And of course, from my perspective as a marketer, I see that, but I would just love to hear your reflections on that kind of, I won't even say. What do you think about that, Lisa?
Well, first of all, I love being a part of the Jai Institute. One of my core values is community.
Yeah.
And I'm always looking to be in community with like-minded people. So I very much enjoy being involved in the community of parent coaching within Jai and in the greater picture.
Yeah.
So I would say that's one point. Another thing is every family in America, or the world, sorry, every family in the world could use a parent coach.
Exactly.
There is we all lose our shiz. We all have our blind spots. We could all use a new perspective. And it isn't to say if you have a parent coach, you're a bad parent. You're looking to bring some skills in. I have a coach that I meet with every week. I have a parent coach friend that we exchange sessions with, because I'll call her up and say, hey, I got a blind spot. I'm in pain over this. Can we talk about it? Can you
Absolutely.
Right? So everybody could use, which means the market is unlimited.
That's right.
Okay. And then for me personally, the only competition I have out there is me. I am unique to me, and my clients and my people will find me. And so I don't worry about saturation or competition, or I'm, again, probably because I'm really driven by community.
Yeah. And we have such a beautiful community. Thank you for that. I think, it's important to remember that even like the fullest of practice, if you're coaching one-on-one, maybe you're working with 12 clients at a time. Maybe you've got another even 50 people in a group program or group programs. There are 330 million people here in the United States alone, not to mention globally, billions upon billions. And so I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts on that. I think these are little ways we talk ourselves out of doing the thing that our heart is calling us to do. And so part of my job is to kind of lovingly bust those myths.
And I also want to add, it works best in building a business like this if you subscribe to the philosophy of abundance rather than scarcity.
Yes.
Right. So if you're considering parent coach training, come into it with abundance. And if you don't have a sense of abundance, just work on it. I grew up in a scarcity household. There were only 8 slices of the pie, and your job was to get in there and get as big a slice as you could get. And I am proof that abundance can be learned at any age.
It's a practice.
Yes. And the other thing I would say about parent coaching, again, like life coaching or business coaching or personal training, or even owning a restaurant, I'm not for everybody. Right. And so I'm going to call my people in, and other parent coaches, whether it's through a niche or a style.
Yeah.
And that's part of the abundance, is that people are going to find who they're meant to work with. I say this all the time, because my clients will say to me, Lisa, I've grown so much and I love you so much. Why couldn't I have found you earlier? Why people will be on my list for a year before they'll take the plunge into a course. And then they're like, why didn't I do this before? And I always say, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Right. I, of course, didn't coin that. But I use that phrase when we're ready. So, if you're watching this video and you feel like you're ready do it. You will not regret. You absolutely will not regret signing up for parent coach training through the Jai Institute. I know in my heart of hearts, you will not regret it.
Amazing, Lisa. Thank you so much. I know you have your book and your podcast. How can people watching plug into what you're up to in the world?
Oh, thanks for asking that. Yeah, you can find a link to my podcast, which just started, and the book at thepeacefulparent.com.
Amazing. Well, it's such a delight to have you show up in your leadership in this community. I always love talking to you. Thank you so much for your time today, Lisa.
You're so welcome.